here's a recap. Since we're talking about industrialized farming, why do we industrially farm? For what?
More profit.
It's money is always going to be an issue. It's going to give you more profit, and the second reason,
You have to pay less. You pay less if you have less people working.
okay. So again, that's economical. What else? Faster. Why? Why do we need it to be faster? To feed the amount of people that are on Earth. Okay, so always money is going to be a contributing factor for sure. But we also do it because we need to meet the needs of the world's food, or the need for food. So we have to figure out ways to farm and be sustainable at the same time. So polycultures is one. If you grow several different kinds of crops on the same land, this is called polyculture. And this implements biodiversity principle. Those are those principles that are, I think they're in the back of your book, that there's 4. You have to know that polyculture is linked to one of them. It's linked to living sustainable, and biodiversity principle is linked to that. Slash and burn is another one. So if you burn a forest, remember we said fires are sometimes good. You can use the land for crops, and then once the land is depleted, you're going to give it a chance to regenerate. So the fire will lead to decomposition and regeneration of the soil. And just the fact that low polyculture farming still produces a higher yield than high monoculture. So even if you do a little bit of polyculture, you're going to get a larger yield than a large amount of monoculture. Does that make sense? Mono being one crop. A review of industrialized farming. Industrialized farming is, they basically do it to sell and make money and export, so for economical reasons. And this type of farming led to an increase in everything except one thing. What is it?
It's going to be a nutrient list.
Increased water, increased fertilizers, increased pesticides, increased yield. What decreased?
Land.
Nope. So as I left the video, we talked about all the increases and we included money and fossil fuels. What you decrease is efficiency and sustainable use, okay? Why does efficiency decrease? If you're producing so much, why is it not effective? That's what efficiency means. Emily.
Well, sometimes depending on what you're producing, you're gonna need different tools and you're gonna need like different ways of doing it.
So as you said, it's gonna take a lot more resources, some being non-renewable, to get an end product. So if you're using more to get the same final product, you're ineffective, or your efficiency has dropped. So keep that in mind. What you put in and what you get out is as important. Whatever you put in is equally important to what you can get out. In this class anyway, because whatever you put in is what you have and what you're running out of, unless if it's renewable. All right, so the green revolution. Like we have agricultural revolution, industrial revolution, this is a revolution. I don't know if it's made it to your social studies books, but it has, which is good. It's about, not 25 years ago, I would say about 30 years ago. It helped increase crops of yield crops, but they used what we don't consider a biodiversity principle. They used monocultures, and they genetically bred to get a large amount of a specific crop. Now, why was this revolution or a revolutionary period? Because it actually helped India and Asia to become self-sufficient with their own food industry, which is clearly something important of value or considered a revolutionary period. It's not environmentally sustainable or effective or efficient, but they needed food and they got it. I missed this part, and what I basically was going to say is probably what I already said. We increased energy use, as I mentioned right here, fossil fuels, and the U.S. uses 17% of all commercial energy on food production. And here's a perfect explanation of the throughput. It takes 4% of energy to actually grow the crops, or 2% for livestock production. But then you have to process it. That's another 6%. And then you got to distribute it. That's another 5%. So it's not just how much energy is involved in making, because if it's industrialized farming, you got to process it, meet the USDA required whatever that thing is, and then you got to ship it to Publix. I'm elaborating on, actually I'm talking about the problems with the Green Revolution, which is very, very much linked to the problems of industrialized farming. They increase fertilizer, they increase irrigation, they increase fossil fuels, and here's just another fact, it takes 10 units, fact that you have to know, it takes 10 units of fossil fuels to produce 1 unit of food energy. A problem, obviously, to this
Wait, we don't get calculated?
excessive growth is it affects farmers who actually are growing for their local community, have been wiped out really, because they can't keep up with the prices. You're gonna pay $2 for a tomato or 40 cents. And the industrialized farmer can produce mass amounts so they can lower the price. So these people end up affected.
What is it say?
So we mentioned that the Green Revolution used genetically modified organisms. Remember this word. You can't ask me on the test what's a GMO, you have to know.
What is it?
Genetically modified organisms.
Yes, and basically that's, oh, there's
It's
Kim.
not something modified organisms.
It's basically genetically engineering crops, crossbreeding, artificial selection, all those words are correlated, okay? So you're gonna do this for many different reasons, not just for yield. We've been focusing on yield, but there's a lot of factors to farming which are besides the final product. So they are making organisms resistant to temperature changes, being that we're in a severe climate issues we're having. Herbicides, pests, parasites, diseases, lack of water or droughts, and change of acidity. Genetically modifying organisms has to have an advantage. You can reduce amount of water use, amount of fertilizers, amount of pesticides, because you can genetically modify organisms to survive without these things or become resistant to these things. Yet, any of those things can lead to irreversible, I should add the word catastrophic results, economical and ecological, really. There could be harmful toxins in our food that we're not even aware of, because if we're genetically modifying organisms to survive some kind of external conditions, we don't really know what kind of effect that could have on us. New allergies in food. I strongly feel we are seeing this. I mean, how many people had visited an allergist prior to the last 10 years? Now everybody has allergies.
I have so many